Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Shea Station Podcast. It's episode 129. It's Thursday, February 9th, and we have a voicemail episode. We have not done a voicemail episode in like almost a year. We got so many messages from you guys. We're so excited. We wish we could go through them all, but we have hand-selected a few to go through. I'm one of your co-hosts, Jack, a.k.a. Jolly. Joining me is Jerry Blevins. Jerry, how you doing, man?
I'm lovely. I'm glad we got as many voicemails as we did. We get to pick and choose. So thank you guys for supporting. I'm very thankful that you guys answered the call for Miss Cleo. Thank you.
I thought it was really sweet that some people called in to say, hey, I don't have a question. I just wanted to say, hey, I love the show, which is
See, you
awesome.
guys, you got to listen to all the voicemails.
I did.
I don't have access into our own voicemail.
I mean, I could grant you that access if you want to go.
That would be lovely.
They're all
yeah,
still
it would
there.
be nice to be a part of the
Okay.
team.
I will do that as well. Because last time we had, I think, 12 people call in, and we were able to use everybody. This time we had 60 people call in. I think we just narrowed it down to 12.
60. Shout out to everybody.
It's
Thank
crazy.
you very much.
Absolutely crazy. There is a little bit of news I guess we can talk about before we dive in to voicemail stuff, and that's the fact that a very an older Met, 2006 Met, that era, is back with the club after kind of a weird detour in 2020 where he was almost manager and then wasn't manager. But Carlos Beltran is back in the front office for the New York Mets. That was announced last week. He's leaving the Yes booth and coming back home to the New York Metropolitans. Jerry, any impressions from this move?
Yes, my favorite thing is that he said no to yes. That's just my favorite thing. No, I mean he's where he belongs. He is a Met. I know there's some Cardinals fans out there that really appreciate what he did for their organization.
Sure.
But to me, he's a Met, and he's also. I've actually never interacted with him, but
Really? Not once?
everybody I know has said he's one of the elite baseball minds. You're around some guys that just have that kind of instinctual knowledge, and you're like, that guy's going to be a manager someday. That's the same feeling you got from Carlos Beltran. He just also happens to be a Hall of Fame type talent. But he did get mixed up in some brouhaha, I guess. It's his own self-inflicted wounds.
Brouhaha.
I am not a fan of the cheating scandal, all of it. It's pretty gross. It does taint his image and his legacy a bit, and deservedly so. That's how I personally feel, and I would say it to his face. I think it's egregious what they did, but I don't think that it's not like a steroids thing where his whole career's in question, because that technology didn't exist. It does make you think, what did they do beforehand? But the guy is an unbelievable baseball player, a really, really smart baseball mind. Everybody makes mistakes. So I'm glad to see he's found a home with the New York Mets. I feel like he's just kind of dabbling in his post-playing career and figuring out where he wants to be, what he likes. I could still see him managing at some point in the future. And it could be the New York Mets. He could be the successor to Buck Showalter. But again, that's all speculation. But I'm happy he's in an organization with a group of fans and a family with the New York Mets, because he deserves to be loved. And the New York Mets love him.
Yeah, I mean, I think you put it really well there. It's not the fact that, in 2020 it was basically the worst timing possible to hire Carlos Beltran, because that's when the scandal was at its height, and it's still lingering for a lot of baseball fans as well. So I think the Mets kind of waited for it to die down a bit and for that to be in the rearview mirror to execute this hire. Buck Showalter is really happy about it, and he says if Carlos wants to do on-field instruction, he's going to take all that advice, which is pretty cool. But Carlos's role is going to be special assistant to the GM, Billy Epler, which I found really interesting because you can kind of slide in Beltran on either side of the ball here in terms of the front office and on-the-field stuff, and he's probably got a lot of wisdom to impart. Also, Lindor said that Beltran was still someone he talked to during the season last year for advice and just the going-throughs of, playing in New York and stuff like that. So it's still, he had an influence on the organization even when he wasn't fully a part of it, which I found really interesting. But yeah, he's back, and I think it's kind of cool for a lot of Mets fans who are sort of the newer age of Mets fans like myself, who grew up watching that team and, get to see him come back and sort of try and finish the job that he couldn't do the first time. So all good things, I think.
Yeah, 100% good thing. There's no doubt about it. Oh, there was another. We
What do you got?
we picked up a guy and designated Khalil Lee. I saw the
We
Mets.
did. Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's interesting. Khalil Lee had some investigations going on by MLB for some pretty not so good charges. The Mets had a trade for him a while back. I think it was in 21. It was one of the first moves by the new regime. A move that I originally really liked because a lot of the statistics on Khalil Lee's power numbers were really good. But he fell as low as single A last year, had a lot of trouble figuring things out, had high strikeout numbers. The Mets end up cutting him, and they pick up right-handed pitcher Sam Coonrod from the Phillies. And we saw, Coonrod, a lot of flashes of brilliance back in 2021. I think he was up and down a lot last year, and their bullpen has gotten a lot better, so I understand why there's not a lot of room for him. But the Mets have built themselves quite a little cache of really good quadruple A relievers that can really maybe take a step up during the season and be that sixth or seventh guy in the back of the bullpen. So I like it.
I do too. I think Coonrod is a good addition. He's got a huge upside. I think he's a bounce back candidate, and he still has an option, so they can keep him in AAA and still on the 40 man. That's huge. The Khalil Lee thing was news to me. I didn't know that he was under investigation, so I was like surprised because he's still really young.
Yeah.
To see him designated, granted his performance wasn't anything, but yeah, man, that's unfortunate for everybody involved, especially the victims of domestic violence or whatever the case may be.
Exactly.
But, I think Coonrod might be a sneaky pitching depth that'll come up and he could throw some very key innings this season for the New York Mets.
Yeah, I mean depth. It's all good stuff there, and I mean depth. It's hard to say 3 times in a row, but I went for it.
You did it. I was okay.
It was pretty good, not bad. And extra kudos to the Mets for acting swiftly on this kind of thing, avoiding any further controversy. Because it wasn't too long ago that we had the Jared Porter situation, a lot of murky things surrounding this franchise, and I think the ability to act quickly.
I think it's a smart move. And again, had Khalil Lee been performing better, who knows? But this is the right thing to do. Move on. Change the scenery. Don't worry about it. The headache is not necessary. And hopefully, if there was allegedly some victim of domestic violence or whatever the case may be, I hope the best for whoever it was.
Exactly. Well put. But I think that's about it. It's been kind of quiet on the Mets front. We are in like the dog days of the offseason. It feels like the August of the offseason where we're kind of just winding down and waiting for things to get going in spring training.
I know, right? It's quiet because pitchers and catchers right around the corner. I'm so damn excited.
Also, we haven't officially said it. I guess we can officially say our plans.
You want to say it? Let's go ahead.
I think we can say it. We got the plane tickets and everything. We got the house. Me and Jerry are going to be at spring training, guys. I believe we're going to be there the 22nd through the 27th of February. We're banging out player profile and projection episodes during then. I'm hoping we can get like 15 done, and we're going to be doing a lot of other stuff. We'll be around Clover Park in Port St. Lucie. Hopefully we see a lot of Mets fans there. We'd love to interact and do some stuff with you guys as well. But this is going to be my first spring training ever, so I'm really excited.
Yeah, this is your first venture into Mets. We obviously did the John Boy spring training home in Arizona last year, which was an absolute blast. Florida's a whole different animal, and you're going to be where your bread and butter is. You're going to be there for the Mets, and so it's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I already told my parents, and my dad's first request was get some autographs. That's all I want. Just get some autographs. And I was like, Dad, I'm trying to be friendly with people. I'm trying to, meet.
Yeah,
and
you're
mingle,
trying to be,
not be a
professional. And Dad's like, give me an autograph.
He did not care. He wants.
Don't worry, I've done that my whole career. It was kind of frowned upon early in my career to ask your fellow baseball players for autographs. Obviously, Ken Griffey Jr., those kind of guys I did. But, I'll be like, hey, my mom wants your autograph. It's hard to say no to somebody's mom. So
exactly.
I'm going to get him able to pull it.
I got to get him one. If I can get Nimmo to sign a ball, Nimmo would do it. I think he feels like a nice
strong arm
guy.
his niceness, his ability to be nice.
I thought you were a nice guy, Brandon.
Take advantage.
And with that, so hopefully we see you guys. We'll probably put out like a formal post and,
we'll have fun. We're so excited. But let's get into those voicemails. Thanks again to everybody who called in either with a question, with a statement, but even those guys that called in and said, I don't have a question, just wanted to give a call in. So cool, so appreciative. Jolly and I and Jack as well. We appreciate you guys' support, because without you guys listening and tuning in, we don't exist. So thank you.
Love that. We also appreciate the support of our sponsor for today's episode, the DraftKings Sportsbook. Gotta tell you about them real quick. The biggest Sunday in sports is right around the corner, and the DraftKings Sportsbook is the best place to place your bets on the Super Bowl. New customers can bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, all new customers can get in on same-game parlays and combine those bets for an even bigger payout. Check the app every day between 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time to see what prop bet will be boosted during that time as well. Again, download their free and easy-to-use app right now. Use code SHEA, and new customers can bet $5 on the Super Bowl and get $200 in bonus bets instantly only at the DraftKings Sportsbook with code SHEA. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. And thank you to DraftKings for sponsoring our voicemail episode. Love it.
Thank you, DraftKings.
Jerry, I've gotten so good at saying minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. You know how hard that is to say really fast?
Is that harder, or is 3 depths in a row harder?
That's a good question. Depth.
Well, you can never have too much depth.
We're going off the rails already.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get into it.
Jack, can you take us away if you don't mind?
Hey, guys. My name's Nick. I live in the D.C. metro area. Real big fan of your pod. Love talking baseball. John Boy Media, my favorite Mets pod out there. He's a Mets fan for over a decade. I have a question about what your guys' thoughts are on the future of Pete Alonso. I think he's an integral part of our team. His consistent power has been incredible the few years he's been in the league, and we need to expand on that. But do you see him playing first base in the latter half of his career? Where do you see him kind of fitting into the Mets' plans as the contract talks come up? Throughout the off season and over the course of the year and the next year. Real curious on your long-term outlook on Pete, part of the Mets franchise here. Thanks for your time. Love the pod. Keep up the great work.
Thanks, Nick. Jerry, you want to take this one away?
I do. Nick, shout out DC metro area.
Hell
Lived
yeah.
in DC for a year. So,
Former national.
Nick, I cannot see a future without Pete Alonso being a New York Met. It is a must for me. He is a piece of your franchise that has to be around. To me, there's some consistency. This lineup has been devoid of power, and he is your power. He's a preeminent power first baseman, a throwback to those 90s and early 2000s style of bashing first baseman. And I love it. He's a hard worker. He's a great member of an organization. He's good to the younger guys. He's very responsible and out front. Plus, I think his power translates. He's not like I don't think I could see him aging well, even though power kind of fades with time. I can see him pulling, doing well later into his career. As for first base, I think he might even become a better first baseman. And over the next few years, based on reps and getting practice at the big league level, learning his own range, because right now you'll still see him dive for things that are out of his range, or he gets to balls that he shouldn't get to because of the second baseman being there. I think he's going to become a better first baseman, and I can see him playing there for forever. I can see him staging. Obviously, if you have a young guy come up with a glove first, you can slide him into DH. But to me, he is the biggest target out there for the New York Mets. They need to lock him up. They need to do it soon, because I would be up in arms if they let this guy switch organizations.
Jerry, I got a question for you. Where do you think Pete Alonso ranks on the all-time Mets home run list right now?
Right now. So Mets have been around since what year?
62.
62. So that's not a super deep.
60 years.
I bet he is top 7.
You nailed that. He is 7 on the Mets all-time home run list.
Right,
That was crazy.
That
was really good. And if Pete Alonso hits 45 home runs this year, he's going to leap all the way to number 4 on that list.
And not to mention, he did this with the 2020 season.
Right.
Like, that is brutal.
Took the
Like,
words out
there's
of my
so
mouth.
many of these records that are skewed because this guy is like, he missed a majority of a season. It was wild, but he's special, and he is a New York Met, and he loves the team. He loves the organization. He's good for the city. Like, it's a win-win for everybody involved. So I think that is obviously the next big key.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed so many points there. He feels like he's indicative of the image of this team. Like, when you think of the Mets, you think of Pete Alonso, and also he's getting better. I mean, one of the big things for me going into last year was, can Pete Alonso stop chasing so much during his at-bats? He had a 24% strikeout percentage going into last year in his career. Last year, he brought it all the way down to 18%. Which is
incredible.
A staggering change.
That's above average.
Yeah, he set the all-time Mets single-season RBI record last year. He's only going to be 28, and he's got a few more years left on this contract. And it's really kind of the last piece of the Mets' core puzzle right now is Pete Alonso. What is his deal going to look like? And I agree. Do it sooner than later, because for all we know, Pete Alonso could have a career best season next year. There's no reason to suggest that he shouldn't. Also, the guy's never injured. He's always on the field. He loves the team and loves the city. There's no reason to not want Pete Alonso back for the foreseeable future. You can argue that he might not be a first baseman, but listen, man, if he's hitting 45 to 50 home runs a season, I don't really care if he's a DH.
When we did our top 10 list, the only thing that was holding Pete Alonso back was if he gets into that 45-50 territory, he's the top 5. Like, yeah. I you know what I mean? Like, there's just not that kind of guy out there that can regularly do that. And he's shown he's got this staggering power that plays. And I think he did take a step forward last year as far as bat to ball skills he's learned. There is two sides to this signing Pete Alonso, because depending on what he wants, does he want to play until he's 40 and sign like a 13-year deal? I don't think that's a feasible thing to ask for at his age, especially early. So who knows? They'll figure it out. I have faith in this organization and in Pete Alonso's wish and desire to be a Met, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say I have no idea what this contract would look like. Maybe something like the 8-year range. I'm not good at that kind of thing. But
I don't. That's not me either. But again, it's a two sides. What are you willing to do? Because McNeil to me was an amazing sign for the Mets, and they were both very reasonable in their time and their money. So again, we'll see.
And like you said, it's hard to find, demonstrated by the fact that the Mets haven't really found someone to bat behind him really throughout his entire tenure as a Met. So losing him would be catastrophic. So the future definitely looks like Pete Alonso would be a part of it. It's just a question of how much does he get? How long does he get? What does that deal look like?
Correct.
Next one? Let's do it.
Hi, Jolly and Jerry. This is Elliot from Northeast Tennessee. My question for you guys is, out of Brett Baty, Mark Vientos, and Francisco Alvarez, who do you think has the best chance of making the opening day roster, if any of them? So I just wanted to get your guys' input on that. Thank you. Thanks,
Elliot. It's a good one.
Nice.
This is a question we got a few times. I think Elliot's was the first one I heard, so I went with Elliot's. It's a tough one. Honestly, it's
very specific. Thank you, Elliot from Northeast Tennessee. I'm born in Eastern Tennessee, Johnson City. Wonder where you're from. Either way, opening day roster specific. So this is a very specific question. Right. So I'll let you answer it first.
Yeah, because it's not a matter of which guy is going to have the most impact this year. It's which guy is going to be up first. Yeah.
Who has the best chance to make opening day roster?
So the acquisition of Tommy Pham does complicate it a little bit, because now the Mets have kind of a filled out bench if you do Nito, Ruff, Guillorme, Pham. So with that, if Ruff for some reason, doesn't make the team, which, there obviously would be a reason, we all know it. But in my opinion, I envision Mark Vientos getting that spot for a couple reasons. One, we've talked a lot about the fact that Brett Baty did not get a ton of seasoning at AAA before he got called up. And he did look good in a lot of moments down the stretch for the Mets last year. But I do think some time at that highest level of the minor leagues would be really beneficial to him. Two, the Mets have outright said that Francisco Alvarez is not going to make the opening day roster because they want him to be a catcher not a DH. Whether you agree with that or not, that is their plan. They've made it abundantly clear. He's going to be in spring training getting reps, but I don't see him making the opening day roster, barring some kind of injury. Vientos is the one that got a ton of seasoning at AAA last year, got a ton of at-bats, produced offensively really well. His only caveat has been his defense, but if the Mets need a right-handed bat off the bench that isn't Darren Ruff, I envision it being Mark Vientos.
I agree with everything you said. I'm just going to add that Baty needs seasoning at third base. He needs third base reps, and I think they're not going to give him opening day starting third baseman job in the big leagues. So I think he needs seasoning. Alvarez needs reps defensively.
Yep.
And then Vientos is the only guy that's I've never seen him play much defensively, so I don't know if he deserves the tag of a bat only. But that's what he's got, and that's what I'm going to go off of. I can see him. He's the only guy I can see making, outside of injury, making the opening day roster.
Jerry, did you see who Brett Baty trained with this winter?
I did. He's a Tulo kind of guy. Let's see that cannon show up.
That'd be kind of sick. I mean, Tulo was one of my favorite shortstops to watch just do anything growing up.
Absolutely.
So if you're learning from him, you're learning good stuff. Next one. Let's do it.
Hi, I have a question for Jerry. So recently I found my pair of Jerry Blevins socks from a giveaway at Citi Field a few years back. And I was wondering if you remember that giveaway, if you had any part in it, in planning it, or if you own a pair of the socks yourself. Thank you.
Shout out to the nameless Blevins questioner. I do have the socks. I had no part in it. I begged and begged for a long time for a bobblehead giveaway. I had never had, like, there's so many people that have had bobbleheads in the minor leagues and other players. And I'm like, come on, can a guy get a bobblehead? My boy Tylor Clippard got a bobblehead with the Nationals in the big leagues, all the above. And so I was lobbying. And then when the Mets signed Todd Frazier, New York, New Jersey native, fan favorite, they were like, all right, cool. He's going to get this sock giveaway. And then they realized he kind of needs something else. He needs something bigger than a sock giveaway.
Oh,
so they said, here's your sock giveaway, Jerry. And I'm forever grateful. The only thing on the socks that has any semblance of me is a picture on the cardboard that clips the socks together. And I have probably 5 pair left. So I am grateful to the Mets for doing that in particular, because when you show up to the ballpark, you're like, oh, it's a giveaway day. Who the F is Jerry Blevins? And why does he have socks? So it's to me, it's like a fun little trivia for the most random giveaway ever in New York Mets history.
I mean, you're right. Your name isn't even on the socks. It just looks like
it's just
Mets
on
socks.
my picture's just on the side.
They demoted you to sock duty. They couldn't give you one bobblehead.
If I were gonna get something, it would have been like a bow tie giveaway. It would have been fun.
Oh, that'd be nice. I think Jack suggested this before. We need a pair to hang right here.
A pair of socks?
Right behind
I'll
me.
bring one in. I'll bring a pair in.
Good luck, Blevins socks. That's what we need right there.
There it is.
That's crazy. I never got a pair. What year was this?
2018 probably.
2018. Oh, we don't talk about 2018.
Yeah, we don't talk about Bruno or 2018.
No, sir. That was fun. Next one.
Jolly, Jerry, this is Paul from Pennsylvania. First-time caller, long-time listener. Hey, I just wanted to ask, are we going to see you guys back together for the OG Shea Station Blitzball? I want to see some lefty pitching. Jolly's got the swing, the home run, the confidence. Are you guys going to get the band back together? That's my question.
Love that question. Jerry, you might have to break his heart, though.
I will. I think our days in the blitzball battle are behind us. I have retired from competitive blitzball throwing, pitching, and I think I left Jolly out to dry because I don't want to throw anymore. And so just when he's starting to warm up and rake at the plate, he didn't have a teammate to represent Shea Station. So
listen, I think the first Blitzball battle you threw like 300 pitches in 3 days or something ridiculous.
Yeah, and they made it slow it way down, and so I get it. And so I can't compete without competing, and so when you give me a rev limiter, I have a hard time at that level. Never really worked for me.
Sure.
If I'm going to play, I'm going to play. So yeah, I retired. I'm going to be. Hopefully, they invite me back for announcing on those things because I would love to be around. I enjoy the competition. If Rosie needs a partner, him and Joe's, and I think even Peter joins in, I would like to do that. And you can pinch hit, Jolly. You can pinch hit and take the CEO or take our boss man deep.
First reserve. Yeah, I will, for the next Blitzball battle, for those who are enjoying the warehouse content, I'm going to have my own little stat corner, which I'm very excited about. We've built the Blitzball stat database, so I have stuff to go through and like splits and all that, so that'll be really fun. And I'll still be involved in some capacity, but I had my shining moment, you know? I had my moment.
You did it. You went out
going on
Super
top.
Bowl champ.
You know?
You didn't come out of retirement like Tom Brady to walk off a loser.
Didn't taint the legacy.
You did it.
Didn't taint the legacy. But yeah, sorry to break your heart, Paul. Thank you for your call though.
Paul from Pennsylvania. That's a legit caller.
Strong name right there. I like that. All right. Next one.
Hi, Jolly. And hello, Jerry. I have just one question for you guys. What do you guys think of the bullpen situation? I think that, it has a tremendous upside, but also a very, very big downside. Obviously Diaz had such a great year last year, Ottavino too, but there are still so many questions with like Robertson and I think Rayleigh too. So I just want to know what you guys think about the bullpen and how confident you guys are going into 2023. Thank you.
All you, if you want to take it.
Bullpens are always volatile. That's a position of, what have you done for me lately? But on paper, I'm very excited about what the bullpen looks like. Obviously, Edwin Diaz as the closer gives you a leg up on everybody outside of, Emmanuel Clase. And so I like the shape of the bullpen. I think Brooks Raley is an underappreciated asset. I would love to see a true lefty and Andrew Chafin, who's still out there, come into the fold here. But they've got depth. They've got a lot of really good back end style bullpen arms, and then they have some wily vet, mid relief arms. I like the shape of the bullpen. I think it's a plus. I definitely don't think it's a minus.
Yeah, I think I agree. I mean, you can point to the collective age, but you can kind of do that for the whole Mets team, really, if you want to be honest there. And they have a formidable top five. You have Diaz, who gives you a leg up, like you said. Ottavino coming back is huge. I think that kind of gets underscored because it happened a little bit later, and there were so many signings that happened. Robertson was great, happened on the same day as Nimmo, so that kind of gets swept under the rug a little bit. But these are really reliable guys that have been doing it for years. And you also have Drew Smith back there, who I'm still a huge believer in that can take that real next step and be one of the guys at the back of this bullpen. I think it's a matter of who kind of fills out the back end. And the Mets have done a good job at least giving themselves options. You had the John Curtis deal last year. He'll be healthy now. We saw a lot of great innings from Steven Nagosic last year. Elieser Hernandez has had some good starts for the Marlins. And all those quadruple A guys that we mentioned before who are kind of waiting in the wings for their shot. So at least nothing else, the Mets have depth. They have answers for guys that can pitch in the bullpen. Tommy Hunter came back. He was huge for us last year as well. So, I mean, there will be no shortage of relievers. And I think you have the elite talent at the back end that makes this kind of one of the stronger areas of the Mets roster, in my opinion, barring any injuries.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. That long guy kind of, we'll see. You've got starters. You've got Joey Lucchesi, who's out there with that curve. Could be that kind of long guy if he doesn't make this rotation. You've got options, and that's the key. They have guys by name and by reputation and track record that can pitch the 7th, 8th inning of a one-run ball game and seal the deal. And so you want guys like that. Again, we're huge, Drew Smith fans. He could lock down that 8th inning guy. You're kind of hoping for that next step from him to see that. But you've got options. You've got depth. You've got track record. I think it's a plus. I think the team is solid back there in the bullpen.
Yeah, definitely agree. Across the board. All right. Onwards.
Okay, so excuse my voice. I'm currently sick, but how would you guys platoon, or not necessarily platoon, but work with the catchers with Tomas, and Omar Narvaez, and then Francisco Alvarez? How would you project it to happen, and how would you think that the Mets are going to do with it? Okay, thanks guys for the show.
That's a good question too.
What was the second half? How do you handle the catching situation? Was there another?
How would we do it, and how do we think the Mets will do it? I think
got it. You go off. You go first. I'll go second.
Sure. So on Fangraphs right now, Narvaez is the starter. Nido is the backup, which I find a little interesting because Nido is very familiar with the staff. He's been with the team a while. He just got signed for a 2-year deal, which is awesome. So that's how they have it laid out right now. I mean, I've said for a while that in a perfect world, I would have liked to see Alvarez up with the club immediately, maybe not catching every day, but catching at least once per rotation turn and getting reps both ways. That's probably not going to happen. That's what I would like to happen in a realistic fashion, with maybe 2 pitchers going to Narvaez, 2 going to Nido, and 1 going to Alvarez. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case, and that's okay because Alvarez can get seasoning and become really good at the position and kind of just take it over fully once he's ready. In terms of what I think the Mets will do, I'm hoping that we see kind of the 2019 version of Omar Narvaez, who had a really good offensive first half and has shown that he can be that kind of offensive catcher like he did with the Brewers. With Nido, you kind of know what you're getting. You're getting a really solid defender. You're getting a good clubhouse guy, a guy that can give you really clutch hits. Remember, he was a great 2-out hitter last year with runners in scoring position, and a nice bat to have back there because catcher is, a luxury position. There's not a lot of great catchers out there right now. And I think the Mets have built themselves an okay, supply here with Narvaez and Nido. I think the real thing is going to be, can one of these guys take the position and run with it on both sides of the ball?
I don't think they want either one of them, and I don't think they'll allow either one of them to run away with it. I think there's a hot hand aspect to it. If a guy's raking, he's going to play a little bit longer. But catching is so tough, and they don't want to have to bring up Francisco Alvarez. They don't want to force him into an everyday role when he's not ready or when they think he's not ready. So I think this is a true platoon plus a little bit more regular at-bats for Nido. Him being right-handed, he can't only play against lefties because I don't think there's enough for him to get the at-bats that he deserves. And he's so good defensively, and he knows the pitching staff so well that I think he's going to play more often than not. But I like it, maybe a true 50-50 split kind of thing, and maybe 60-40 if Narvaez can hit righties better because he's left-handed.
Sure. I still think I see Narvaez kind of getting the majority of reps, but another question I wanted to ask you is kind of when do you think Alvarez would get the keys? Like, when do you think he would come up and sort of become the number one guy? Does that happen this year?
To me, it depends on Francisco Alvarez. Obviously, if he's down there and he has a huge leap forward defensively, or if he's just completely raking and the catching is not doing great, I think they would call him up. They don't want to put pressure on him to have to hit.
Sure.
They don't want to. And if Narvaez and Nido are doing solid replacement level work, I think they stay with it. If they need a DH and he's still tearing the ball up, I think they'll let him do that. But ultimately, I think he's most valuable as a future catcher, and I think they're going to allow him to season. So September, if all things going the Mets way, you don't see this guy until rosters expand.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah, because I don't think they want to force him in, and I think they're counting on Narvaez and Nido being a guy, being capable of being in the big leagues, and let him just flourish down there. Let him get some real reps at catcher at the AAA level, seeing some high level talent throw to him, and let's see him progress defensively.
Yeah, I still find it really interesting that both those deals were 2-year deals. It kind of feels like they're prepping for 2024 Alvarez, but we'll see.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think so. I think that's the key. I think, again, don't put pressure on him to have to be ready.
Sure.
Let him come up. Let the evaluators truly let him, because I was all for him being our everyday starter. letting him get his bumps and bruises in the big leagues, because his bat, I still think we need that power. But the way they've shaped the roster by signing Narvaez shows me that they just want him to season and be a catcher with a power versus just a DH, and I respect it. So I like what they've done. I would have rather let him be in the lineup every day, but with the way this roster is shaped out, you can't. So
yeah, I think catcher and third base, those are the two toughest positions right now to kind of see where they'll be like 3 months from now. So
yeah, again, for me, Escobar is the guy at third base.
Sure.
Until proven otherwise, because he had 20 homers last year. He had a solid year. It was really bad for a while, and he lost some playing time. But ultimately, he had a down year, but it's worse than it's not as bad as it felt. And I think he's a very big bounce back candidate. I think he's a very good hitter and a switch hitter. I think he could be very good. And I really think Brett Baty needs some defensive seasoning as well at third base, because it's such an important defensive position. His future's bright. I think he's going to be an impactful bat for the future. But I think both of those guys are in the same category of they're a little too green right now defensively, and let them see some elite pitching at AAA before they call them up.
Yeah, I like the caution, honestly, because we're starting to get real excited about Alvarez and Baty. I feel like we talk more and more about them every episode. So
this roster, we talk about the age all the time.
Right.
It's built to give these guys a longer time seasoning in AAA.
Yep. It's
built to gap until their own prospects come through the system. And so you don't want to force it, even though, if your team's competitive and you can get an edge, they're not afraid to call them up. They tried it last year at the end of the year, but this team is really built on the backs of allowing these guys to stay in AAA and not forcing them to come up, which is a testament to how well Billy Epler and the front office have done creating depth. But the age, these guys are big leaguers. Let them be in the big leagues and let the young guys, scratch and claw and earn their way up versus out of necessity.
Well put. Next one.
Hey, Jack. Hey, Jerry. It's Linda, a.k.a. Velcro Baby. I don't have a question, but I just want to say I keep a gratitude journal, and I'm really grateful for you guys and this podcast. I enjoy it every week. Keep doing what you do, and let's go Mets.
Had to throw that one in there because
I love it.
That was maybe the first call we got.
Velcro Baby.
I think it was the first call we got, and it wasn't even a question. It was just like
that's amazing.
Love the show.
I'm very gratitude journal. That's amazing. Like
awesome.
Your Twitter presence feels like somebody that would have a gratitude journal, because in what can be a very negative social media of Twitter, you're such a shining light. So thank you, Linda. That's amazing.
Yep.
We are grateful for you. You've been with us from the jump. You're an OG, Shea Station fan, so we appreciate you.
We appreciate you big time. Hopefully one day your son sees the light and becomes a Mets fan instead of a Braves fan, because that would be perfect. Be perfect.
Yeah, that's a tough one. And again, she has to write down that she's grateful for her son because she doesn't want him to be mad at him. So she has to remind herself, even though he's a Braves fan, I love him for his shining light.
And we love Linda.
And Linda, I think that's the first time I've heard your voice.
Really?
Good job. Yeah, I don't remember. I was surprised.
I don't know if she called in last time.
She probably did. And again, I'm grateful, but that might be a call in. We might hey, Linda, you want to be on the pod every once in a while?
Who knows? Fan show? I think we hinted at that last year. We never did it.
Maybe we'll do it. Maybe that'll be an off season.
Well, maybe if we're at spring training and there's a lot of Shea Station
and they're
fans
around, we're ready. We'll figure it out.
We got it.
Thank you again. Thank you. If I had a gratitude journal, you would be in it, Linda, 100%. Yeah. But I am not that good of a person.
Oh, come on. Yes, you are. All right, next one.
What's up, Jerry and Jolly? Hey, guys. Quick question for you. Wondering if you still think Tylor Megill has what it takes to be the next ace of the staff, the next Jacob deGrom. I remember seeing Jolly say that on Twitter, and I'd like to know if that's still what you're thinking. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for the question. I think I'll probably take a lead on this one. So I made that video last year. still stick by a lot of what I said, but I think the problem is when you're in the YouTube sphere, you do stuff that'll get clicks, and putting DeGrom on a thumbnail, it'll get clicks. The main crux of that video was the average extension, average vertical run, average horizontal run of a lot of Megill's pitches matched the profile of Jacob DeGrom back in 2016 and 2017. They were almost identical in terms of fastball, slider, all that. So I was like, oh, they were very similar in height as well. Oh, okay. So you could follow a similar development. And I think a lot of people took that as this guy thinks Tylor Megill is going to be the best pitcher on the planet, which is not necessarily true. That being said, Tylor Megill as a number 6, number 7 is an insane luxury that I think a lot of Mets fans haven't fully grasped yet because of the injury troubles of Megill's past. Same thing with David Peterson, too. Having those two as your 6 and 7 at AAA is insane. And these are guys that I still think are massive pieces of the future of the New York Mets rotation, especially with contracts winding down on Carlos Carrasco. Quintana's only a 2-year deal. I kind of see it the same way as like Escobar and Baty and Narvaez and Alvarez. These guys are going to step into that space once those contracts are up and once they're fully ready. And when Tylor Megill is ready, I truly believe that he can be a 30-start, 3 ERA caliber guy because of his uptick in velocity in the past years. He went from 94 to 98. He's developing pitches. And I think that with more seasoning and with more protection, I think Tylor Megill can develop a little bit more properly. The Mets kind of had to lean on him in 2021 when they were really strapped for depth. Last year, he got the opening day start, which I think a lot of people forget about, and then sort of tailed off after that great April. I still think there's a lot in the tank for Tylor Megill. Is he the next Jacob DeGrom? No. But I still think he's going to be a great Major League starter.
Yeah, I'm gonna. You said everything. It was a clickbaity topic. You knew it was going to be. It was controversial, which
We're
is
in
fine.
the business here.
That's the YouTube space.
We're in the business.
So I'm going to ask a deeper question here in a sense that, like, what is his cap? Is he a number 2 cap? Like, that's his ceiling, do you think? Not just on the Mets, but in general. You know how you label guys like a true ace, a number 1, a number 2, number 3. Where do you see his ceiling?
I do think it is number 2 on the Mets, I will say, because I do feel like the Mets will always put the best foot forward to have somebody at the top that is either proven or established.
Even if you're a number 1 on a team, you could be labeled a number 2. Like you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like I've seen. Correct. So,
but the biggest thing I want is for Megill's arm health to be sustainable, because we've had flashes of brilliance and then injury, and I think the workload is the biggest thing from there. I think we saw that from David Peterson last year. He threw 100 innings for the first time in the major leagues and was still very, very efficient even towards the end when he was switching roles and all that. That's kind of the next step for Tylor Megill, because we kind of thought he might be this bullpen super weapon. It didn't really pan out that way, because he still kind of appears as a true starter, a guy that's still good third time through the order, can go 6 or 7 innings and still be sharp at the end. I still remember that Subway Series start he had against the Yankees in 21 where he struck out 10 guys in 7 innings. He was still very green back then. We were sort of leaning on him for big starts. That's the kind of guy I still see Megill being, and he's only getting better. So I do view him as a true number 2 caliber guy. It's just the fact that, can he put together a 25 to 30 start season? We'll see.
Yeah, that's fair. And nobody will ever be the next Jacob DeGrom in my eyes. That's not fair to anyone.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, so.
But that's why I put long hair DeGrom in there, not short hair DeGrom. There's the distinction,
It's pre-Cy Youngs.
Exactly. He's just a good pitcher. That's
just
all.
Rookie of the Year.
That's all. No pressure, kid.
Champion of the playoffs kind of Jacob DeGrom. Okay.
Yeah, that's all. Next one.
Hey guys, Jeff Kleinschmidt here. This question's for Jerry. It's pretty A's related, but what were the 2 differences you noticed playing in front of Mets fans as opposed to playing in Oakland? I spoke to Trevor May about it recently, and he's, of course, going to be more, we're going to have more, I'm stuttering and I'm so sorry. I'm going to ask him more details as time goes on. He did say he's stoked about all the foul territory Oakland has to offer. And then another question, Jerry, is when you were transitioning from player to member of the media, what was your biggest surprise about it all? Thanks, guys.
Shout out Jessica Kleinschmidt, TV personality for the Oakland Athletics Bay Area. She's very good at her job. If you guys don't follow her on social media, you should. She's good. from the A's fans to the Mets fans, I find them very similar. I've said it in the past. They're both very similar. They're very, you know, the blue collar hard hat style baseball fan with the San Francisco Giants across the bay, and their beautiful skyline. And it's easy to be a Giants fan, and they've got the celebrities. As an A's fan, you're a true baseball fan. They have their own celebrities, they have their own following, but it just feels like the not, the lesser than, the little brother style. And the same with the Mets. Is as good as the team is, as fun as it is to be a Mets fan, as much celebrity as they have, the Yankees are a world brand, the greatest sports franchise in the world, in my opinion. So you feel like that little brother, no matter what, you have all these championships, whatever the case may be. The fans are very similar, very loyal. There's such a really good group of like season ticket holders that are around. But it is different because the Bay Area set of personalities versus the New York set of personalities is different. The Oakland fans are much more forgiving on day-to-day basis, as the Mets fans in New York is a what have you done for me lately? We still love you, but we're not afraid to chew your ear off if we think you didn't come up in a situation, which is, again, fair for both. You're allowed to do whatever you want as a fan. I love them both, and I'll forever love them both.
Well put. Yeah, I really like how you highlight the similarities, because the franchises couldn't be in different places right now, in more different places between the A's and the Mets in terms of ownership taking the franchise in one direction or the other. And I think it really highlights the fact that, like, regardless of where your team plays, who owns your team, baseball fans, if they are spirited enough and if a team, gives them so much in the past, they will still be rabid year in and year out. And I'm hoping that it doesn't end up with the A's being relocated or whatever everyone is theorizing, because that is a storied franchise. They have some of the most memorable seasons in recent baseball history. You go back to Moneyball, you go back to the winning streak, you go back to the 2010s years with Bob Melvin. There were so many good A's teams. There's a reason that fan base is the way they are, and it's because the A's have put together a great culture of baseball leading up until these recent years, which is unfortunate because there's a lot of new people getting into baseball, and this is the perception of the A's that they'll have, which is disheartening. But at the same time, this is the perception of the Mets that these newer fans will have. They only know the Mets as this kind of team.
It's a tough time to be an A's fan, and one that I respect them so much more, because it would be so easy to jump ship. Yep. And I feel like they're being forced to, or trying to push them away. So again, that's the details that are deeper. But the second part of Jessica's question had to do with like the transition from player to media. I think the biggest difference for me was how quickly the game kind of moves on from you. And I expected it. I was anticipating it. I wasn't blind to that fact. But when you're in a clubhouse as a reporter and you're wearing the label that says you're with the media, and if the guys don't know who you are, you're not a player. You show up in uniform and you get the respect of the clubhouse. Right. And quickly, I remember being in Oakland. There's guys that don't know me, and I was covering the team in Cleveland there. I put the lanyard on. I go in to say hi to Stephen Vogt and Sean Murphy, and there's guys who are like, "Who the hell is this guy in our clubhouse?" And I'm like, "Oh shit, that turned like that," and deservedly so, because I'm on the other side now. But it's real quick. The game moves on without you. It's a tough pill to swallow for anybody, especially one not expecting it. But it's beautiful from this side. My body feels so much better now. I do miss it. I was breaking in my glove. I text Jolly the other day to make sure he brings his glove.
I'm never forgetting again.
Training trip.
Never forgetting.
Because I miss it. I do miss a lot of aspects of it. But I'm a very happy man on this side.
Hell yeah. Well put. And I forgot my glove in LA. I had to borrow one when we went to the All-Star game. Never forgetting my glove again.
I bring my glove everywhere.
Catcher's
for the
glove.
most part.
Listen, if you're firing 90 at me, I'm going to need a catcher's glove. Nice padding.
I do have a catcher's mitt too. That was like my last shout out to Stevie Cohen, the Rawlings rep, not
Nice.
Mets owner.
Oh, okay.
He's the best rep in the league according to his own Instagram. But my last glove was a catcher's mitt, a lefty catcher's mitt, and I still got to break that thing in.
Lefty's catcher's mitt. I didn't even know they made those.
So dope.
It's crazy. It's cool. Love a catcher's mitt. And I think we're on our last one, right, Jack?
I need to hear, and it's for the people. Hold on, Jack. I need to hear your voice for the people.
My voice?
Oh yeah. Is this our last voicemail that we're gonna put on?
This is the last one.
All right, thank you. I just needed to hear
He's
the
been
sultry
silently
sound
running
of
the
your voice.
show, you know? Just pulling the strings.
Hey, Jolly. Hey, Jerry. My name's Ryan. I'm from Farmingville, Long Island. Big fan of the show. Big fan of you guys. Been watching Jerry. Been a big fan of him since he was on the Mets. Just got a fun question for you guys. If you had the power to retire the number of just one former Met player, don't care from the beginning up until like a few years ago, who would you retire? I want to hear from both of you. Thanks, guys.
Good question. Okay, so let's go over who is retired.
Yeah, give me that. I was going to ask you. Okay.
Yeah, so it's Willie Mays last year, Keith last year. It is Kuz, Piazza, everyone has Jackie Robinson. And then it's Seaver and Hodges.
I think that's everyone.
I feel like I'm missing one. I don't know. I think that's everyone. Casey Stengel is the last one. Okay. So that leaves you with, a lot of 86 guys. There's one big one in the 2010s who everyone's probably thinking of. I'll go with the not obvious answer. Who
David Wright's number is being retired. That's an obvious one. So we'll go outside. We're not going to pick that.
I'll go. You know what? I'll go with the guy that mentored David Wright. I'll go with Hojo. Hojo, I think, is a super underappreciated Met. Kind of got to the team right as they hit their apex in the 80s and was incredibly reliable for them. One of the better power hitters in Mets history. And the reason why I think he's deserving is because he's always kind of been with the club, even when they were under different ownership back in the Wilpon era. He was always around the team and was kind of an important voice for the talents that they developed in later decades of Mets baseball. Obviously, the most significant one being David Wright. But I just think that he's one of those underappreciated Mets who is right up there in a lot of, like top 10 or whatever all-time Mets stats. And it kind of doesn't get the love that, other superstars of that era did get. And if we are kind of, making an effort to preserve Mets history and highlight Mets history, I think he's kind of a fun number to have up there in the rafters. And I think a lot of Mets fans would really appreciate that as much as I do.
Well-deserved for him to get his Hall of Fame introduction coming up. I think that's incredible. I'm going to say, I think is very deserving of his number being retired. And I think it's number 16. And I think that is synonymous with that era of dominance the New York Mets had. And Dwight Gooden, I think Doc deserves his number 16 to be retired. I can't look at a number 16 New York Mets jersey without thinking of Doc. And for good reason. The guy spent, 11 years as a Met, won 157 games, 303 starts, 67 CGs, over 2,000 innings as a New York Met. What he did is incredible. 4-time All-Star, Cy Young winner. Like, the guy came up at 19, like, just so crazy. I think he deserves to have his number retired. And having your number retired is another huge step away. Like, you go into the team's Hall of Fame, that's incredible on its own, but to retire a number where there's never going to be a player behind you wearing that same jersey number is a much, much more elite circle. And I think Doc Gooden deserves it.
I love that answer. I'm sad I didn't think of Doc first because I went offense brain first. But I like that we had one hitter, one pitcher. I mean, dude, Doc's 1985 season is so unbelievable. He had a 1.5 ERA at 16 complete games as a 20-year-old.
Did you look at his numbers as a 19-year-old?
They're crazy. They're nuts.
His numbers as a rookie at 19 years old were insane too. Like the guy is just, he was so dominant. He should have won the Cy Young.
Yeah.
His 19-year-old year. Like,
Crazy.
If the voting were today, I think he wins it.
Because who wins instead of him?
Rick Sutcliffe threw 150 innings.
Yeah.
Went 16-1.
Yeah. Okay.
Only made 20 starts that year. Dwight Gooden.
Doc had 120
had
more
31
strikeouts.
starts through 218 innings and dominated. He had 120 more strikeouts. Like he would have won. He had a lower whip. He would have won.
That's so
had the
interesting.
voting been a modern vote.
It's really interesting that they went with a guy with less volume in like every stat and less wins too.
Wins were bigger. He only had one loss.
He
went 16-1, where Doc only went 17-9. And he was a rookie. That was another one of those things where this kid will have his own. Rick Sutcliffe is again a great pitcher in his own right, but.
And just so it's said, the implied answer, I'm assuming from both of us, is David Wright. But I think this is a good segment
for sure.
to highlight.
That's inevitable to me.
I think that might happen this year, honestly.
Yeah, but I think Doc Gooden is deserving of having his number retired, and I don't say that lightly. I think Howard Johnson deserves the Hall of Fame status, but I don't think that he deserves his number being retired, and I think that's a distinction. Nothing against Howard Johnson, but that's a distinction that's a separator.
My dad's favorite player growing up. Still into me.
There you go. Your dad has made a couple of appearances in today's
Listen, man, he's the reason I'm here. I don't think I'm a baseball nut without
that's true.
Without early,
on
adolescence.
Multiple levels, it's true that he's the reason that you're here.
I mean, if we really want to get deep and philosophical here, we can. We can talk about the facts.
We can get physiological too. If you
what
want
a
to go
way to end this show, Jerry. Guys, thank you so much for leaving us so many voicemails. I'm really sorry that we could not get to them all, but I feel like we kind of have to do this again. We could probably do another episode with all the voicemails we couldn't fit into this one. But this was a lot of fun. I love these kind of pods.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Again, this is awesome. For those of you that are going to be in spring training, please come say hello to us. Please. We'll be down there.
You'll find us. You'll find us.
So excited. So we are a very fan-friendly podcast. So if you're around, we will talk to you. So Jolly might not sign autographs. He's kind of a jerk sometimes, but
it'll just cost you. That's all. I mean, everything's for a price. But I do think that like an episode where we kind of just have an open mic and fans come on and say hey and just talk shop with us, I think that would be so much fun. We should do it.
I agree.
Hell yeah.
I agree.
All right, guys. We'll see you soon sometime next week, and then hopefully we see you in bright and sunny Florida in a few weeks. Mm-hmm. Let's go Mets.
Let's go Mets. And we got to hear Jack's voice. Oh my goodness.
Highlight of the episode.
Mine anyway.
Not the socks.
That's true. Nope. Jack's voice.